This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
The Amazing World of Gumball.
If you're an average cartoon enjoyer, chances are you like The Amazing World of Gumball. Sure, this animated TV show has its fair share of weird humor and downright stupid moments, but I think overall, it's a pretty good show. I'd even go on the record saying that Gumball is actually one of the best cartoons of its generation. However, every now and then, there comes a moment so bad, so horrendous, that it's impossible to ignore. Seriously, this gets really bad. Which is why today, I'll be taking a look at the most hated Gumball episode of all time. This is based on your comments. I'd be surprised to find anyone who actually likes this. In my last Gumball video, I covered the lowest rated episode ever, but even then, I got like a bazillion comments to watch 2 more episodes, with people commenting buzzwords like uncomfortable, deranged, and especially cursed. Not gonna lie, I'm kind of excited for this. So today, I'll be trusting the viewers and taking a look at the 2 most hated Gumball episodes in full for the first time to see if they're really that bad. Like worse than The Girlfriend? Are you sure? I don't know. That one's pretty bad. Anyway, enough with the played out intro. Go grab your copy of Mario and Luigi Brothership for the Nintendo Switch, and let's jump into what some people call the most hated Gumball episode of all time. This first episode that everyone seems to hate is called The Dress. We're starting off strong with this one. Oh boy. Our adventure begins with Gumball and Darwin sliding down a set of stairs for no other reason than the two are just really bored. Man, when you're 12 years old, falling down a flight of stairs really is the most exciting thing imaginable. It's actually time to head to school. However, turns out Gumball is completely naked. I'm not kidding here, Gumball just has no clothes on right now. They even added in some blurry box around his crotch to make sure you understand he's 100% naked here. Gumball tries to find some clothes real quick, but can't seem to do it. I don't want to make this weird, but like, this is weird, right? It's not some funny haha where his pants get ripped and he's all embarrassed or something. Gumball is actually just straight up naked here. What is this? Cyberpunk? Turns out Richard shrunk all of Gumball's clothes on accident, or so he says. I think this dude is secretly an evil mastermind, but that's just me. So because he needs clothes for the day, Gumball is given his last option, which for some reason is his mother's wedding dress. This is the only thing that Gumball could possibly wear today. Everything else is in the wash. How unfortunate. I'm pretty sure Gumball's mother is like a lot taller than him, so I'm not sure how this would even fit Gumball, to be honest. But I also wouldn't put it past this show if Gumball's parents randomly got married at like 12 years old or something. This show's weird like that. Gumball tries to wear Kanye West's new designer t-shirt, but figures he's better off wearing something actually wearable, so he bites the bullet and just wears the dress all day. That's the episode, by the way. Gumball wears an expensive wedding dress at school. What could go wrong? Also, Richard just straight up dies. Doesn't really matter. Oh. This next part is actually super important to remember for this episode, so pay attention here. Anais, who's Gumball's sister, shows up and immediately recognizes Gumball because obviously she does. He doesn't look any different here. She makes fun of him for a bit, and then out of nowhere, a bunch of side characters show up and start a conversation. As someone who's pretty new to this series, seeing a balloon, a T-Rex, and whatever the hell this is, all walking and talking is kind of weird. But knowing how diehard the Gumball fan base is, I'm sure half of these characters are simped for online every day. Like, does this guy have interesting lore at all? There's no way, right?
Who are you?
Wait, they don't recognize him in the dress? Do T-Rexes have poor eyesight or something? I don't understand. So there's this weird thing that happens where all these people that definitely know who Gumball is, for some reason just don't recognize him while he's wearing the dress. I'd brush this off as a funny cartoon haha, but Anais literally recognized him, like immediately, actually. So either Anais is a big brain detective, or everyone else just inhaled carbon monoxide. There's no in between. These are the only 2 options. Anyway, the school bus arrives, so everyone gets on and heads to school. Everyone but Anais and Darwin, who finally shows up. So like, are these 2 not going to school at all? Why did they not get on the bus? What's important to note here is that Darwin sees a button that Gumball dropped on the ground, and he gets all excited in a love kind of way. I don't really know how to explain it better than that, honestly. It's clear that something very interesting is about to happen. And hear me out. Everyone knows that love is an important emotion, which is why if you're creative or simply want to build your own website, blog, or online store, today's sponsor is exactly what you'll love. Yep. That's the segue. Squarespace is an easy-to-use website platform that offers a range of capabilities, including online stores, print-on-demand, blogs, email campaigns, appointment scheduling, and more. Let's say you're a content creator, but you want to make your content a little more exclusive. Squarespace lets you easily sell access to your content. Just set a price and choose between a one-time fee or a subscription. We're talking video and written content that you can organize and showcase in just a couple minutes. And the best part is, with Squarespace, you can explore design intelligence. It combines 20 years of design expertise with Squarespace's Blueprint AI to help you craft a stunning, personalized website that showcases your unique style and builds a cohesive online identity. Seriously, if you ever want to build a website, this is the way to go. I'd click on this website. That looks pretty cool. So visit squarespace.com to start your free trial. When you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Darzii to save 10% on your first purchase of a website or domain. Back to the video. We're now at school with Gumball and all the extras. Gumball asks Darwin if he can copy his homework because the two are bros for life. Except Darwin seems to think Gumball is a pretty girl, actually. So he makes big goo goo gaga eyes, and oh my god, this entire episode is just gonna be Darwin trying to date Gumball, isn't it?
You can copy mine.
No, mine! How about mine?
Are there no other girls in the school or something? Why is everyone so in love with Gumball all of a sudden? The teacher, for some reason, doesn't question why there's a brand new student in their class. Also, I'm sorry if this offends anyone, but this teacher has probably the most annoying cartoon voice I think I've ever heard. Please tell me someone agrees with me on this.
That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard!
After class, we get this tell-all scene where Darwin tells Anais that he's just straight up in love with the new girl. He's obviously talking about Gumball here, but he doesn't know that it's Gumball. Also, I guess these two did show up at school today, so they just decided to walk instead of taking the bus earlier. They must have sprinted really fast so they can make class on time. Anyway, Gumball is now fully embracing all of the attention. He's taking all of his Yas Queen energy and sharing it sparingly, like he's the moderator of a Discord server or something. And listen, as weird and nonsensical as this episode is so far, there are some funny moments of dialogue sprinkled here and there. One of my favorites being when there's a puddle of water in Gumball's way.
Just walk around like this.
Oh, she's so clever.
So independent, what a free thinker.
Gumball is talking to Anais and even calls her his sister right next to Darwin, but still, this dude has no idea. Darwin takes a quick picture from behind Gumball. He then has a manic episode and licks the picture. This is a nice reference to Activision every time they see an overpriced microtransaction. They never fail to deliver that one. Funny how that works. We then get an almost minute-long montage about how everyone is in love with Gumball. He gets treated very differently than everyone else. Everyone is way nicer to him now. And the reason for this is because he looks like a girl, I think. I like to think that the idea for this episode came up because one of the writers just randomly thought that the voice actor for Gumball sounded like a girl. I don't know why, it's just a funny thought to me. It kinda does, honestly, not gonna lie. Anyway, later that day, and Gumball receives a very cryptic letter from Darwin. It's actually asking for the two to meet up on a roller coaster later that night. The meme here is that Darwin is obviously asking Gumball out on a date, but Gumball just thinks that Darwin wants to hang out as bros or whatever. Gumball still has no idea that Darwin doesn't recognize him, is what I'm trying to say. Listen, I know for a fact that goldfish actually have amazing eyesight, so Darwin really has no excuse here. Later, while on the roller coaster, Darwin is acting all weird because he thinks there's a girl within touching distance. Gumball has no idea there could be a demon right next to him for all he cares. You won't even know. The two ride the roller coaster up, and right before they reach the drop, Darwin whispers that he's in love. It's very creepy, and this scene should be avoided at all costs. You have been warned. I love you. Immediately dies. Sounds like Shakespeare. It's so poetic. Later that day, and Gumball is now scarred because he thinks Darwin is a 3 out of 10 at best. Sorry, Darwin. I don't make the rules. For some reason, Gumball is still wearing the dress, despite it being hours later, at the very least. Surely your clothes are washed and dried by this point. Gumball is pretty traumatized and even daydreams of what he thinks is the worst case scenario. And I'm just gonna play this scene here because it's actually just wild. I know this is just a quick joke, but if you really think about all the implications here, this is actually insane. Like, how does this exist? So Gumball needs to stop pretending to be a girl because he's getting creeped out. Instead of just not wearing the dress anymore, he goes through this elaborate ruse where he tells everyone that he's off to Europe for some political reason. I'm not kidding. He does this thing where he attempts the old bait and switch with a balloon. Everyone around here thinks that this balloon is the girl they've all been fantasizing about now. Somehow, the balloon flies into the sun and everyone freaks out and even cries. And at first I thought this was pretty silly because obviously, like, it's just a balloon. But then I remembered how there was a talking balloon earlier, so this is low-key a very real death everyone just saw. Like, this dude was just murdered by the sun in real time. Gumball is now naked again because no pants equals lots of laughs. The dress falls perfectly onto a fire hydrant, so Darwin immediately falls in love with that now. Everyone laughs at Gumball because he's nude, and then the episode just ends. And that was the second most hated Gumball episode. Was it bad? Kind of. Yeah. The entire premise of this episode is pretty goofy, which I understand isn't itself a bad thing, but it's also kind of really weird for a kid's show, honestly. I think most younger audiences will watch this and not think anything of it, but it's almost impossible as an adult thinking about all the weird implications throughout the story here. Gumball being naked with his junk always out, everyone obsessively following around what they think is a lonely girl, two brothers almost sharing a kiss and starting a family together. That happened. All in all, there were actually some funny moments here, but I totally understand why people hate this thing. Not gonna lie. But more on that episode later, because it's now time to watch the most hated Gumball episode of all time. This most hated episode ever is called The Slap. For those of you who've never watched this episode before, I'm sorry in advance. Our story begins with Gumball and Darwin trying to come up with a new way to high five. Gumball comes up with something called digit docking, which is definitely a name that had to have been chosen intentionally because it's probably the worst name for anything ever. Seriously, there's no way they called it that. What? Digit docking? That's crazy. The two go through a bunch of these wacky greeting alternatives, which is when Darwin mentions that at least none of these are as bad as what Tobias does when he says hi to someone. But what does he do? I hear you asking. Well, no need for me to explain because lucky for us, Tobias is showing up right now.
Hey. Oh, hey Idaho, my brotato.
Wait, he just slaps everyone on the butt? Bro's trying to catch a case. That's crazy. Tobias's infamous greeting is high-fiving someone and then slapping their behind right after. I know people who do this in real life. They're not normal people. This is very weird. So Tobias makes his way towards Gumball and Darwin, slapping everyone's butt on the way there. When he arrives, he slaps Darwin, but then surprisingly doesn't slap Gumball, like, at all. He just high-fives him and then he leaves. Maybe Tobias is a League of Legends player and still thinks Gumball is a girl. He wouldn't dare touch one of those things.
No thanks, ma'am. I'm actually gay.
In all seriousness though, Gumball is also pretty confused here. Gumball is literally the only person Tobias isn't slapping on the butt. Of course, that sounds like a blessing in disguise, but Gumball of course takes this as an insult, so the rest of the episode is just Gumball trying to get slapped on the ass. I'm not kidding. Later in the gym, Tobias slaps everyone but Gumball. Later in the hallway, Tobias slaps everyone but Gumball. Gumball even does this weird pose where he sticks his butt out, and there's an undeniable sexual tension brewing. Things are getting pretty creepy. Tobias tries to leave, but Gumball stretches his butt around to make it follow Tobias. Is this Gumball's tail or something? I'm not really sure what I'm even looking at here. You guys are gonna hate me for this, but this straight up reminds me of Skibbity Toilet, like how the head stretches out. I don't know why. My brain is cooked. Also, Skibbity Toilet video at 100K subscribers. Please subscribe so I can suffer through every episode. I need help. Please send help. Tobias runs away from the butt, which is something I never thought I'd actually say. Later, Gumball pretends to choke to get Tobias to slap him. This episode is honestly just the same joke over and over again. Please let me know which episode could possibly worse than this one. I'm open to your suggestions. It's the same thing in music class. It's the same thing in math class. It's the same thing in the library. You think this episode would be a YouTube short, the way it just loops over and over again, basically.
What are you doing?
I don't know anymore.
I genuinely think Gumball is going insane. Just go play a video game or something, dude. It's not that deep. So this next part actually caught me off guard a little bit. We get a whole minute and a half about how Gumball is singing about his butt and how it's not good enough. To put that into perspective, that's almost 15% of this entire episode dedicated to a song with lyrics like, I only want a pat, just a tiny bump, a casual little hey there for my lonely rump. Riveting storytelling. How has this not won an Emmy Award yet? Anyway, this song kind of means nothing because the next day and Gumball is back at it again, trying to get slapped hard. He tries to use Darwin to bait Tobias, but that doesn't really work either. Tobias just ends up knocking himself out.
Oh wait, it still counts if he's unconscious, right?
The next scene, and Gumball has completely lost it at this point. He's gone full Joker and has no sense of normality with his actions. It's basically a horror movie now. Considering nothing has really happened in this episode so far, the writers finally decide to change it up a little bit. So this next scene has Tobias going to the roof of the school to meet a girl he likes, but actually it was a setup by Gumball to trap him on the roof. The only problem is, turns out Gumball has been waiting on the roof for 2 days now? What? So just to clarify, because the show doesn't really explain it that well, Gumball put a fake letter in Tobias's locker to bait him to go on the roof, but there was an undisclosed time skip, and it's actually 2 days later when Tobias finally arrives. The only door back down locks from the inside, so when Tobias finally shows up, the boys are now stuck up there until someone saves them. This quickly turns into some castaway survival episode. When Gumball and Tobias are on the brink of death for the next couple hours, they try to eat a rat for food, they try to eat each other for food. It's all very insane. At one point, they try to signal for help, but this dude in a helicopter just doesn't care at all.
Need help?
Need help.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Most helpful police officer in California. There's another song that I can't really play because YouTube will destroy this video if I do. The two are starving, dehydrated, and exhausted now. It reminds me of that one moment in the SpongeBob movie where they're all dried up. Good reference, honestly. They start hallucinating, which is kind of funny, I guess. They finally talk about their real feelings, and Gumball says that he just wants to be a part of the slap greeting thing. He feels like he's not a part of the friendship, and he just wants to be a part of it. That's basically it. He's got FOMO. Tobias explains that he never slapped Gumball because he just thought that Gumball wouldn't like it. This whole time, he was just being a good friend and respecting Gumball's boundaries. But since Gumball wants it so bad, Tobias says the next time he sees him, he'll slap his butt no problem. Issue solved. It was actually that easy. Also, does this guy think everyone else likes to get slapped on the butt? What does any of this mean? We then skip to the next day when Tobias greets Gumball, high-fives him, and slaps him on the butt. And then, in the most frustrating ending to a cartoon ever, Gumball slaps Tobias back, but this time in the face. He gets really angry because he feels violated, and turns out this whole thing was for nothing. He didn't want to get slapped after all.
Actually slapping people's butt is not one of them, so we have to take a stand.
And that was the most hated Gumball episode of all time. Was it really that bad? I'm gonna be honest. I didn't like it. Sure, it probably wasn't the most offensive Gumball episode or even the most boring, but this horrible mix of obscene premise meets repetitive scenes just kind of ruins it for me. The songs, although well sung, feel out of place and just seem like filler. Nothing in it is really funny or leads anywhere. I guess compared to the first episode I covered, this one's more straightforward and focused on its conflict resolution. I mean, when your resolution is getting slapped on the butt, I'm not so sure that's a good thing, but whatever. All in all, both of these are pretty hated, and according to you guys, one of these is the most hated Gumball episode of all time. Are these actually the worst? Which episode do you hate the most? Comment it down below and maybe I'll cover it next, who knows. Become a member for only a single $1. Every member gets their name at the end of all my videos right here. Thank you so very much to all my current members. It blows my mind that people choose to support the videos I love to make. I appreciate you all so much. Like the video if you want to help my channel grow, it would mean a lot to me. Paul Abdul scores this one a solid 1 slap out of 5. And yeah, thanks for watching.
It still counts if he's unconscious, right?
Hey,